Welcome back to Tailosive Movie Review with your co-host, Mike. Hi, hello. And we've got back again. I guess he decided to come back this time. Randy, how are you doing this fine evening, I guess?
I'm doing good. I felt like it was only appropriate to talk about another prequel movie.
Yeah, I guess so. So we're following up from the last movie that we reviewed being Phantom Menace with Attack of the Clones, as appropriate as possible. This movie, this is an interesting movie, Randy. It's not the most popular. I don't think anyone's ever called this movie their favorite Star Wars movie. But what do you think of Attack of the Clones? Just either face value or I guess, I don't know. We're in 2022. What's your opinion on this movie?
Attack of the Clones, rewatching it again now with fresh eyes and fresh ears, it kind of stings a little bit. Yeah, this one sucks. Wait, hang on. Before we go into the goods and the bads, pros and cons and all that stuff, because I think you and I are, unlike Phantom Menace, I think you and I are going to see a little bit more eye to eye with this one just so far. Takeaway from it, I want to address something that I addressed the last time for continuity's sake. The nostalgic feeling is still there. Like there's something that still gets me giddy that I think no amount of time or no terrible writing or no terrible CGI will take away. There's just like a moment of time of where I remember where I was as a kid watching this. And I was like, okay. And for that credit, like I'll be like, this is still probably something I would watch over the sequel trilogy. Just for trying to be original. And one thing I like George Lucas doing overall is that he does expand these worlds. And in episode 2, we get Geonosis, and we also get introduced to Camino. And I'm like, you know what? Cool. There's still universe building, expanding, and I appreciate that. And then when we look at stuff that we already saw since the first one, say like the Jedi Temple, and it just feels so like that grand library, and the cathedral. It does feel like I'm in Roman times. There's something that just big grand halls and everyone's walking around. There's just a sense of like legacy and just hit like in that vibe that they're trying to convey there. That even though it's CGI, like you could obviously see like, oh man, this is early 2000s computer rendering. Put that to the side for a second. You're just like, you get this sense of grandness in all these shots. Palpatine's corridors, when every time they're the Jedi are talking with him and they're watching the transmission of Obi-Wan explain what's going on, like, and him behind him, and you just oversee this city just existing.
Bustling.
The city, you see the city existing when they're chasing down the bounty hunter. Like, it's cool. I feel like a fly on the wall looking at the universe. I'm more fascinated with the universe than I am maybe necessarily the story. And John Williams, again, with the music, my God, like saves it every time. Every
single episode.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So I guess out of all of that, what would you rate it out of 8?
Out of 8. Ooh. What did I give Phantom Menace again? I gave that like a 6 or a 7, I think.
You said 5 or 6, and then I think you ended up with a 7.
Oh, okay. I give Attack of the Clones out of 8, 3 or a 4.
Really, that much of a downgrade in regards to like you built up this world building epic, or maybe not epic, but like this tapestry that is Attack of the Clones with a bustling city, and it feels alive and all that, and it gets a 3.
Attack of the Clones to me feels like what I would want if like an open world video game, and I just want to walk around and just appreciate. Like if I was playing Destiny, it feels like I'm playing Destiny, and I'm just kind of moving around the world and just kind of taking in. I don't know. There's just I build it up the world, the universe for what it is, because I'm more interested. Like where George Lucas lacks in like the story department of trying to make me care about Anakin and Padme or what's going on with the clones, or in this case the Separatists.
Whatever's going on with them.
Yeah, that like you don't even see Count Dooku till near the end. Like the whole thing just, so where that lacks, it makes up in the sense that like I'm more interested in the world, just in every scene. If this was a video game, this would make a great video game where I can kind of open world explore. It feels like I would, like if I was playing on Xbox or PlayStation, I was playing Destiny, and I could just kind of walk around the city and do all, it kind of it has like that sense, that vibe to it. But judging the movie for movie's sake, yeah, 3 or 4, and that's me judging it in a bubble and with context between 1, 2, and 3, knowing what's going to happen. It's the weakest of them all, and it's funny because the thing that I liked the most when I first saw the movie the first time, and then a few more times shortly after that, what I liked about it was the fact that I saw Boba Fett. And in that case, it was Jango Fett. But
yes,
like seeing the armor, the Mandalorian, seeing all that, like that was cool to me. Seeing Yoda, just come in there and just kick some. I'm like, dude, that was awesome. Like watching Anakin have 2 sabers, and he's just going to town. Up to that point, that had not been done yet. Like there were some firsts that just was there. Yoda fighting Anakin, or a primary Jedi, 2 lightsabers hand in hand.
The amount of lightsabers in one screen.
Yeah.
On Geonosis, there's like 20 or so Jedi in the middle of a sea of battle droids, both regular battle droids and super battle droids.
Right.
Fighting against each other. It's an astounding visual that Lucas Entertainment or Lucasfilm achieved. And I think it deserves at least some recognition for that, even though, like you said, it's a 3 in your book. And I think I agree with that 3, maybe a 4 if I wanted to be a little bit generous. But this was the worst grossing Star Wars movie, I think, ever, even if we compare it to current day statistics with the sequel trilogy. It wasn't good. It got bootlegged crazy amounts. I think millions saw it before its May release date. I guess some quick fun facts about it. It got a teaser during Monsters, Inc. back in 2001, November of 2001. Beautiful year. November, well, I mean, maybe not best in American standards, but it got released.
Sure about that, Mike? Man, 2001, what an amazing year.
What a year. But, I mean, it debuted with the theatrical release, I guess the teaser of it, with Monsters, Inc., and then I think it got put on TV with Fox for a little bit, and then it debuted theatrically with a trailer with Ice Age. Man, back in 2002 in March. Man, 20 years later. It's been 20 years and they released this movie. It was the worst grossing Star Wars movie. It only got, I think, $30.1 million on opening day, which, I mean, doesn't sound bad. But this is back in 2002, and then overall grossed about $649 million worldwide after weeks and months and years of people watching it in theaters. So it sounds like a success, $649 million, but comparing it to Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith, which we'll review another time, and the rest of the Star Wars films, it was a failure. which is sad. And it tried to be the best it could. I watched all these deleted scenes on Disney Plus that they have there. I'm like, I've never watched these deleted scenes, and I watched them. I'm like, some of these don't make sense. Like, you've got like Padme and Anakin bartering, or I guess discussing with Count Dooku on Geonosis about releasing Obi-Wan Kenobi from being a prisoner and all that. But then you got other ones that kind of, like you said, it's like a Destiny game. You're building the world. You've got Anakin talking with Padme's dad.
Yeah.
I don't even remember his name, but talking with his dad. I'm like, wait, Padme had parents, and like they planned to have them in the film. Like, they had potential, but it's just it didn't.
The librarian giving a little more lore of Count Dooku before he left the Jedi.
She somehow had all this information that she was that Dooku was like a separatist leader. I'm like, this technically doesn't make sense, but I guess it makes sense as a deleted scene because it just doesn't make sense in the story wise. Like, you'd have to have it like after Obi-Wan found out more about Dooku, but before the fight, which just doesn't make sense because
she comes up. He trained your master, you know. Like, oh, okay. Like, are you a walking Wikipedia here? So
she's a thesaurus. She's a very weird thesaurus. I don't really like the librarian in this movie just because she's very like, how dare you think that this knowledge is wrong? It's not. We don't have it. Camino doesn't exist. Like, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, if you're a librarian, like, I get it. You're a bookworm, but also like, maybe, I don't know, you live in a world, you live in a digital age where things are possible to be like deleted from an archive. So you do have to like take things with a grain of salt sometimes. Instead, you're taking everything as fact. I don't know. That's just me. But
I if you take it at face value, the script, the plot falls flat. Like it misses a lot. It takes me many times to try to find what they're trying to convey. I'll give you an example. Here's me trying to give the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
Palpatine challenges Yoda when he's like, "Do you think it?" Not the same way, like, "My little green friend."
Oh yeah, we're not there yet.
No, but he challenges them as Supreme Chancellor. He's like, "Do you really think, come to war?" And at face value, if you don't know his dual persona situation, he looks incompetent. But me trying to be like, okay, let me try to find a more layers to this. Darth Sidious hides in plain sight, and he's testing the Jedi to question. He's questioning him on something he already knows the answer to, and Yoda explains that like it's hard to tell, and then Mace Windu is like, I think we need to tell the Senate that our ability to be tapped into the Force has weakened. Like, this is the first time they say out loud that like we don't have the ability to sense the Force the way we thought we did, all the way up into like the end of the film when Yoda's like, the dark side, falls on this begun the Clone Wars have and all that. Mm-hmm. Like, they know something's afoot and they can't pinpoint because they're not. They got complete. This is me like I have to try to go deeper than just watching the film. Where it's like, all right, they got complacent. They're not really. It's like going to the gym. They're not. Their muscles aren't tuned anymore. They're not in shape with the Force, and I see it as Darth Sidious challenging them as Palpatine sitting there. Is like, do you think it'll be war? Like, he looks like so innocent, so and oh, Padme, please go back home and protect yourself. Like, this was really all orchestrated. Again, master puppeteer over here. This is really all orchestrated because of Palpatine doing his thing where he wants to separate. If he keeps Obi-Wan busy, because Obi-Wan seems to be the only one who's like more challenging, maybe he's kind of starting to adopt more of Mace Windu's persona. Keep him busy about finding this bounty hunter. That he already knows who the bounty hunter is, but set him on a wild goose chase because Darth Sidious tasks Darth Tyrannus, who tasks Jango Fett, who tasks the other bounty hunter who got killed. So
Zam Wesell, yeah.
It's all degrees of separation there. they're just sending him on a wild goose chase here. It's just keep Obi-Wan busy, separate Anakin, and at this point, I have to believe that Palpatine is sculpting, molding Anakin to be something of his apprentice at some point. Like the thing that I struggle with the prequel lore is that Palpatine is not being a true Sith about having master and apprentice. He's maybe only having one apprentice at a time, but he's just using these people as pawns. He has no intention of an apprentice one day taking over him. He uses everybody as a pawn. He uses Darth Maul as a pawn, and we know that through extended lore of Clone Wars and Rebels that Darth Maul was a pawn. Count Dooku is a pawn. He's just
a Jedi gone wrong.
Yeah, he's just a Jedi gone wrong, but his thing is he had different plans, and Palpatine just told him what he wanted to hear, or Darth Sidious, told him what he wanted to hear. And Anakin, he's like, this guy, now I got somebody as a child, and I'm going to mold him to my image of what I want him to be, to do my bidding, just so he can have more power. So in the sense of, okay, the Sith lore doesn't really exist with Palpatine because he's doing all things completely like modern new mindset of attack with your mind, not with your sword, and that's how you have real power. And you know what? I like this power. I'm not going to give up this power. And so I feel he's orchestrating the separation of Anakin going with Padme back to Naboo, send Obi-Wan on a goose chase, and then let the Jedi just be like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And what? There's a clone army being built that of course he already knew. Palpatine already knew. So this is just more of space Frank Underwood doing Frank Underwood.
Yeah, it gets Padme out of the way, who's Queen gone senator, and then gets Jar Jar Binks, who doesn't know better, into the senator seat and makes him do all the things that he wants to do. Again, like you said, the puppet master is able to just do whatever he wants, and in this case, gets Jar Jar Binks to say, well, I think we should have Chancellor Palpatine take emergency power and be able to allow this clone army to occur and all that. And it's like,
I love democracy. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love the Senate or whatever.
Yeah. I will relinquish this power as soon as everything's done. I love democracy.
Oh my goodness.
I love the Republic.
Yeah. He is playing everyone
like a fiddle. So that's it. I think in overall, because I'm trying to find good highlights besides the fighting and the theatrics of the swords and the Jango Fett and all, like this is the continuation of Palpatine just taking control and nobody knows it. And even us as the viewers we're technically not supposed to know that yet. But it's
Yoda doesn't even know. Yoda's just like, why should we even think about Palpatine or like the Sith already takes control of democracy and the Republic and the Senate and all that? Like, we don't know that. And Mace Windu's just like, we should still be a little bit like cautious. And Yoda's like, well, maybe it's just the Sith trying to provoke us or trying to make us think that this is an issue. And it's like, he literally told you, but okay, that's fine. Yeah, just ignore it.
Yeah, I think the last redeeming quality I can really find in this film, before I really just kind of want to go lay into it, I guess, or maybe we could take it recap what goes on in the story. But the last redeeming quality that I really appreciate is that I actually think Naboo is very pretty of a planet. That looks like a place I would want to go to. The mountains, the water, the open fields and all that stuff. I was like, man, this is a pretty planet. And I that's us getting we get to see a different side of Naboo, because last time we saw it was all with, there's this blockade and this thing going. So it was, they were in
You're
distress.
Kind of stuck in the city.
Yeah, you're stuck in the city. But now we get to see more of the planet, which was cool. We get to see more of
the weird wildlife,
Coruscant
like
too.
Giant ticks, the tick bison type thing, and then like you said with Coruscant, like
Coruscant,
it's not
you see
just
more
like,
of that city life. Yeah,
you don't just get to see the beautiful clear sky cityscape. The very first scene in the movie is it's foggy. you've got the Naboo really beautiful, like reflective ship coming in and then blows up. But like Coruscant's all foggy, and then at the end of the movie you get a beautiful like reddish hue sunset. Like it looks evil, of course, because of course Dooku's coming in with his solar sail and all that.
Yeah.
Literally the Imperial March playing, but like you get to see a different part of all these different beautiful worlds. I guess in Phantom Menace they mainly focused on Naboo, Tatooine, and Coruscant, but in this I guess we see all three of those plus Camino, but we get to see different shades of them in a way. Tatooine, we get to see in a little bit darker view, kind of like a evening night in Utah or something like that. Coruscant, you get to see the very evening, like city life or whatever. Like I guess it's the industrial fields or whatever with all the whatever's going on in the industrial parts of Coruscant. Camino's just water planet, I guess, and then
Naboo, or not Naboo, but Geonosis is another planet that's introduced. You have, you know what's interesting? I was just thinking about right now the end of the movie Coruscant. You're actually on the outside of the city watching the troops form up, which is an angle you don't actually see really in Coruscant. You're always in the city when you're watching Coruscant, and that's you get new. You just get new angles. Even stuff that we see all the planets again, Naboo, Tatooine, and Coruscant. You just get more layers of that. Did you notice, since I brought it up with the last one, that on Tatooine, as Anakin's looking for his mom, they play Duel of Fates again?
Oh yeah, of course, because it's literally, is he going to do the right thing or the wrong thing? Of course, he's doing the wrong thing because he's trying to get his mom back. He left Naboo, which was his assigned, I guess, planet in a way to protect Padme on, went to go save his mother, and of course he's going to fail because that's his fate, is that he tries to delve into his feelings, and if he goes into his feelings, it's just going to lead him on a path of pain and deception and hate and anger and all that, and that's what happens. He ends up killing literally a whole tribe of Tusken Raiders, or just Tuskens in general. I don't think we call them the Raiders anymore, but literally a whole tribe of Tuskens, not the men, but the woman and the children too.
I hate them.
Holy cow.
I slaughter them like animals.
Oh my goodness. So
I hate them. Yeah.
There's so many quotes in this movie too, but it's also a very cringy movie as well. Like every single conversation with Padme and Anakin is so, it lands on the trope. It lands on all the single points of a trope of just like,
it just didn't, it didn't work, man. Like she covered the cam to look in because she didn't, I don't think she likes me looking in on her. Stop looking at me like that. Why? It just it fails to like establish the relationship was rushed to make me care. That's just that. It's like,
yes,
it was so forced. One picnic, rolling around in the fields, and all of a sudden you're supposed to just. Padme is smarter than that one. She just like she comes off like she's more intelligent than that, and just like that sounds like a dictatorship and all that. And if it works, it works. Like
I think that's maybe her foil though, right? Like she's smart, but she's got feelings for Anakin enough to where she's like, I am smart, but also I like this crazy fool, and I guess I'm willing to risk my career and his career to do something in secret, but also like not technically in secret because we had someone watch it, and I'm sure there's other people who are peeking behind the bushes and all that watching this. And we've got 2 droids documenting it in whatever servers we
got 2 droids watching our secret wedding to be witness to it while they do. I mean, that last shot was completely set up the same way they did Empire Strikes Back, where they look off to the side and the droids are right there the same way Luke and Leia do the exact same thing. But Naboo's a pretty planet. Coruscant is an interesting planet. it's the world building that I like about the film, and I think that that's about it. The little bit of character development, but it's so rushed that I just the pace. I don't know if it's the pace. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. Sitting down watching again the opening scene. The decoy gets killed, and I was like, oh, ho, ho. I wasn't like, even again, I was just like, oh, that's right. It starts off with a bang, and I completely forgot that's how that one started. Starts off with a bang, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm in for the good. Maybe I'm in for a good experience, and it just starts to really quickly just feel so. It's like I'm watching a theater play. That's what it is. I'm watching a theater play.
Yeah.
On
That's
TV.
definitely how the prequels kind of play. It's very much like curtains close, curtains open.
Yep.
And now you're on Coruscant, and now people are walking and talking. And that's what happens in Revenge of the Sith as well, and which we'll probably talk about in the next episode. It's very much just walking, talking, curtains closed, curtains open, maybe some cool action, and then curtains closed, curtains open, more talking, more walking. Like,
yeah, I don't know if it translates well on camera. Like if you're watching as a film, I don't feel like it has the same energy. To be honest, if this is like a play, I would rather watch it in person. I think it would have. I would want to be in a cathedral or an amphitheater watching this, sitting and feeling the grandness of everything, and let them in lifetime. Yeah, let them lifetime build the world out. Hey, did you know that night scene when they're looking for the bounty hunter, and they're walking around and they go into the bar? You want to buy some death sticks and all that? Did you know there's so many cameos in that scene?
I'm sure there is. I didn't notice all of them at all.
This one I did not know until I saw the credits. But one of the lady, what are they called? Not sheiks.
Twi'leks.
Twi'leks. It's George Lucas's daughter.
Oh, that's cool.
In there, and actually George Lucas's son is one of the Jedi who comes up to interrupt the librarian talking with Obi-Wan, and he also appears in Revenge of the Sith. And he's one of the kids who gets shot down by.
Oh, he's the kid who saves Bail.
Yep, yeah, that's George Lucas's kid. His youngest son. So, but his daughter is in the bar. The guy who says you want to buy some death sticks was one of the main guys in the first Matrix, who, talking with Neo. He was, I think his name was like Rat or something like that, where he was he was talking. It's like, if you close your eyes and you think it's chicken, he's a kid. He's like you can really think it, and he has this like excited energy, but he does die near the end when everyone's like when what's his name is unplugging everybody, he kills him. But he's in the Matrix, and speaking of the Matrix, the girl who's the lady in the red dress that Morpheus like, were you listening, Neo, or were you paying attention to the lady in the red dress? I was just, look again. And then it's Agent Smith with the gun. The lady in the red dress is also in the bar as one of the other Twi'leks who has the makeup, and she's like looking into the camera. As she's looking at Obi-Wan Anakin, you could see her just kind of be mysterious. And I feel like there was a nod to the Matrix in that, because that she was supposed to be distracting, because she was the only one that had like the makeup as well and stuff like that. We're like, oh, she's pretty, and it's the girl in the red dress. And that one I didn't know. But the guy, when you want to buy some Destinies, it's like, there's something about this guy I can't pinpoint. Where have I seen him from? So I looked it up, and I was like, oh my god, he's from the Matrix. And that went me, and I went down a rabbit hole of like, oh my god, so is this person from the Matrix? Same one, the first Matrix. And then I was like, oh, and I guess that's George Lucas's daughter. Cool. So that was just that was cool. Yeah. And I like that scene as a whole. It's a change of pace of the whole thing, where it's like, it's almost like you're in the cantina again. So someone's going to get their arm cut off, because that's what Obi-Wan does. Jedi business.
Yep.
Go back to your drinks. Yeah. But do you want to buy some death? You don't want to sell me any death. I don't want to sell you any death sticks. You want to go home and rethink your life, redrink your life. I want to go home and redrink my life.
As soon as I turned on the movie, it says, was it like tobacco some type of warning that makes it like PG-13 or whatever. And I knew immediately as soon as I turned on the movie, I'm like, oh, it's the Death 16. And then we get to the Death 16. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, here's the point. And then, of course, it's the scene where everyone
You don't
memes.
want to sell me any death sticks.
I don't want to sell you any Death sticks.
So this whole thing takes place 10 years after Phantom Menace, which means Anakin is...
He's like 16 or something.
Something like that. No,
if we go by Weird Al's very silly parody of American Pie, where he says 9 and 14, he's technically 19 or something like that at this point, and then Padme's 24 or something like that. I don't know the specific lore of like how old he is at this point, but 19 sounds about right for how freaking challenging Anakin Skywalker is in this whole entire film. Every single scene, it's him saying, I hate Obi-Wan. He's so terrible. He's like my father, except he never had a father. But he's like my father. He's telling me what to do. He's telling me not to do this and do that. It's like every single scene. You get tired of it. You're like, this teenager is like... Just take a chill pill, dude. Go run around in a lap or something like that. Take your energy out. Like, come on, man. I'm tired of listening to you whining every single scene of the movie. Even when Padme falls out of the gunship, it's like, we need to go back. No, we need to go get Dooku. But she's alone in the desert. No, she's got a clone trooper. She's fine. No! Like, holy cow. The man is
let her do her
whining.
thing so we can focus on our thing. I'm like, thank you, Obi-Wan. Just go kick some Sith butt.
Which is also pretty funny. He's just like, you know, we could probably end this war even though it just started like probably like an hour ago or whatever. We can end this war now if we just capture this old man. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess it makes sense because that's the only person in power that they kind of know, but also like, really? You don't think there's anyone else on this plot?
If they were to get their hands on the Death Star blueprints, then they could have really messed up the strategy there. But
that's kind of the funny thing too, right? Like the Separatists somehow thought that they were in on this Death Star plan. Palpatine thinking like 5 steps ahead is just like, nah, the Empire's going to be building this at some point, and the Separatists are going to be long gone. Yeah. But, like, the Separatists are like, oh, we're down. We're in for this game. Like, this dude who, like, comes into the meetings every so often who's very powerful or whatever, like, he's like, we're going to build this orb. Okay, I guess we'll do it. Let's build it. And then they disappear in a couple of years, and that's it. Like, then the Empire takes over. Then they build the orb, and then... Oh, God forbid we talk about the sequels, then a planet becomes an orb, and then everything else becomes an orb, and then whatever else. Anyways,
yeah.
That was interesting, though, that they name dropped the Death Star in this movie. That they're like, oh, yeah, this is kind of like the end game in a way, yet they destroy in episode 4.
Right. They think it's the end. They think they're playing, big brain move here, but... What's your takeaway of episode 2? Like, what's its overall message? What's its to you? Because there's so many things happening at once. What's the storyline to take away from you about that story?
The one theme that I get from this is just Anakin's slow descent into things that Jedi don't practice: love, feelings, passion, all that. Like. The whole movie is him jumping in the pool that is not allowed to be jumped into. The lifeguard is blowing the whistle and he's just doing backstrokes and all that. Like, it's a movie about a guy. It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet. I mean, it pretty much is how George Lucas set it up. It's all about a kid falling in love with a girl, and then the girl falling in love with him, and they get together and all that. Meanwhile, everyone else is just like, doesn't know what's going on besides the fact that a war is starting. Some people are like, maybe we don't know anything about the Sith. Meanwhile, like the reality is you're going to know everything about the Sith at the end of this whole entire war. Like, if you thought like things were clouded more at this point because of the war, it's the opposite. You're going to find out so much about the Sith in the war because everything's exposed at this point. Both armies are showing their hands. It's a movie about struggle. You have the master trying to teach the Padawan, and the Padawan every single step of the way pushing against those steps. He's stepping back. It's one step forward, two steps back all the time. And it's a power struggle every single scene. Anakin saying, I'm going to become the most powerful Jedi ever. I'm going to bring people back from the dead and all that. You have Dooku reciting the same lines, like not like 20 minutes later, just saying, I've become more powerful than I ever was as a Jedi, and throwing rocks at Yoda and all that. I think you captured it really well with your original words. It's a world building episode. It's not notable in regards to anything. Like, we talk about all this stuff like passion, Anakin moving to the dark side. You got more Jedi that you've ever seen in a scene, more lightsabers than you've ever seen in a single image. There's so many lightsabers, the blues, the greens, and then the one purple.
I wonder who that is.
I wonder who that is. You see all these lightsabers. You see all the battle droids. I mean, I guess it's 2002 technology showing off. I think at the time, actually, IMAX was having a little bit of issue, or at least Lucasfilm was having a bit of issue with IMAX, so they were trying to supplement a lot of stuff. But I guess in today's day and age, you see all the lightsabers, you see all the droids. It's all world building, but it's not a lot of substance. You're dipping your toes into the pool, but you're not submerging yourself entirely. Like, you're getting a nice glimpse into this world. I guess a good description is you're peeking your eye through the keyhole, and you're seeing this beautiful oasis, but you can't touch it. You can't swim in it necessarily. You can look at it for a while, but then someone immediately pushes you away from the keyhole and says, that's enough. But I'd agree. It's not a satisfactory amount of story. They show their cards in regards to the planets: Geonosis, Camino, Tatooine, Coruscant. But you don't really see all the substance. The substance you get is in the deleted scenes a bit, but you see the shell of it. Is it a matter of the fact that they're following up a movie that was kicking off the prequel series and they're trying to figure out what to do? Could be, but
I kind of feel like this was them, like, this was their way of, it's a good blueprint. It's a good, like, foundational thing and everything, but
all the lines are there.
There's so much in that movie that just makes you not need to watch episode 1 as well at the same time, because there's very little connecting. There's no reference to anything that has to do with episode 1. They just wanted to keep moving forward and just...
They talk enough about Qui-Gon Jinn in this whole entire movie. They're like, oh yeah, Obi-Wan was taught by Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn was taught by Dooku.
Yeah.
And Dooku was taught by Yoda.
Saying the guy who commissioned the clone troopers anyway.
Sifo Dyas.
Sifo Dyas. Did you know Sifo Dyas was a slip up of a name that was not supposed to be Sifo Dyas? It was supposed to be the side DS or something like that. The F was supposed to be a D on the script, and George Lucas, yeah, that makes sense because I'm looking at the keyboard. D and F are next to each other. George Lucas just kept the F there, but it was supposed to be a pseudonym for Sidious.
Oh.
And initially, Sidious was the one who's commissioning the clone troopers, but they ended up scrapping that idea when he was like, no, we'll just keep the F. And it was just a typo. And because the F and the D are so close, it was what is it? Sifo Dyas.
It's Sifo Dyas, Sifo, and then Dias or something like that. I always
Replace
took the
F with the D.
story. Sure.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say I always interpreted the story as, what was it? Dooku left the Jedi Academy as a Jedi Master.
Yeah.
Then got picked up as the apprentice of Sidious. And then Sidious told him to go make an army. And so then he took on the title of Sifo Dyas when actually he's Lord Tyrannus. And so that's why you get all these names of Lord Tyrannus and Sifo Dyas. And then you get Sidious as well. But anyways, you get all these names. In reality, it's just Dooku pulling the strings. But I guess in the over reality, it's Sidious pulling all the strings, making Dooku think he's pulling the strings, but Dooku's not pulling the strings, and that's when I guess we'll talk about in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
You see the reveal that Dooku's like, I wasn't the puppet master, he's the puppet master, and then he gets his head cut off, and you're like, well, this is where the game begins.
Yep.
It is a very graphic movie for Boba, and it makes sense. I mean, after watching Boba Fett, it makes sense why, I guess in one way, when you watch the original trilogy, you understand why he's so cold. But then you see in the book of Boba Fett why he's so redeeming in a way, because he realizes, I can't follow my father's path anymore because my head's going to roll eventually. So
yeah.
I guess I better change something, but this is
moment where I noticed that was his warning shot when he fell into the pit, because I noticed, I was paying attention to the whole Jango Fett thing, that like it's a nod, or it's a foreshadow, so whatever you want to call it, that Boba Fett died the first time because of his jetpack malfunctioning, and he gets hit and he crashes to the side and he falls into the pit. You see Jango trying to take off on his jetpack as Mace is coming for him, but it's not working because he got trampled by one of the animals and it broke his jetpack.
Bull or whatever its name is.
You see when he rolls up, and he gets up, it's sparking, but he doesn't know. So as he's right there shooting at Mace Windu and he's coming for him like that, you see him trying to ignite his jetpack, but he can't, and that's what got him killed. I was like, I see. Cool.
He gets destroyed right before he gets decapitated by Mace Windu. Like, he acts like the cool, like, gunslinging Western, like, hero or whatever. Like, when he shoots Mace Windu off of the platform or whatever, like, he's like, yes, back in the holster or whatever. But then immediately after, like, I can hold myself against a Jedi, gets destroyed by an animal, and then tries to hold himself against a Jedi and gets destroyed again. Like, I guess why I wanted to ask you, because of course we're recording this after the book of Boba Fett came out. As many viewers are watching this and listening to this, of course, well, I guess they couldn't listen to it before. Anyways, I noticed with Jango and Zam Wessel, the changeling or whatever it is,
the shapeshifter,
it's very much a dichotomy with Boba Fett and Fennec Shand is the character's name in the Book of Boba Fett. Ming-Na does a great job as Fennec Shand, both in the animation for Bad Batch and along with her live action debut as Fennec Shand as well.
Yeah. And she's a great Mulan.
She's a great actor and voice actor in general. But the dichotomy between the two, like you see in that first scene on Coruscant with them, but then like knowing what we know in 2022, it's like there's a parallel here between these pairs. You've got Jango and Wes, and then you got Boba and Fennec. Very much like the same pairing of the Mandalorian-ish person who has abandoned Mandalore, and then they've embraced this bounty hunter lifestyle and have a female-ish, I guess, very sleek and skilled partner who I guess does a lot of the dirty work.
Right. Yeah.
But is very skilled in what they do as well. And
Holy
it makes
crap.
a deadly pairing.
I just realized, like, you want to talk about degrees of separation in episode 2, because she's paired with Jango, but she's basically taking orders from Jango, who's taking orders from Count Dooku, who's taking orders from Darth Sidious. Like, it's just it's just
it never
there's so many
ends.
degrees of,
Almost.
I'm so surprised that anybody was able to. It's like playing that game Telephone, and by the time it gets around, it's like, is it even the same mission at this point? At this point, you think that's like, go kill the Chancellor. No. I am the Senate. Like, at that point, it's like it's coming back to bite him in the butt. But there's so many degrees of separation that's happening. It's a bit overkill. But all that to say that it's also showing the chain of command, and it shows how detached the Jedi, or us as the viewers, the good guys, are from understanding how deep the rabbit hole goes. I want to like the movie more, but like the nostalgic part is like, oh, you know, Anakin gets the Tatooine, and Annie, here it is, and his little wings and stuff like that. Like, well, I was
You
like,
got water there.
Yeah, I always wonder what happened with him, what he was up to, and you see a young Owen and all that. I'm like, okay, fine. Yeah, that's cool.
And we get to see him again in a few months, I guess, with Obi-Wan Kenobi, the series. Apparently, he's reprising
Same
his
actor.
role. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what comes of that. But it's nice seeing him for I guess, technically the first time in this movie as that role of Owen Lars. And you get to see his dad and young Aunt Beru in their kind of prime in a way. And I guess it didn't really click for me until watching it recently, that they're stepbrothers or half brothers by Shmi. And it's like, this is the same DNA, just one became a moisture farmer or whatever they do, and then one became a Sith, or I guess a Jedi, then a Sith, and then death and all that. And it's very interesting just seeing like the simple, like, all he wants is just a nice farm, a nice family, and all that. Like, he cares for his mom and all that, and he'll live his life on Tatooine, never seeing anything else probably ever. But I guess we'll see in Obi-Wan Kenobi what else he sees. Probably just the Inquisitors, and that's it. But then you see Anakin, who sees the galaxy, which is what the kid wanted in episode 1, and then gets affected by it and gets all the scars and everything. And you see the darkness in him versus the light, which is Owen Lars, which I don't know if too many people have compared these brothers, but I think it's, watching this movie, I very much appreciate, again, like we said before, the world building, where we see Owen Lars, who is the simple good person who just wants to live life, right? Yeah. He doesn't want anything else. He doesn't want power. He doesn't want to save anyone from death. He's just living life on Tatooine. And then you got Anakin traveling the world, like, couldn't be more alien, back in his element on Tatooine. And he's there, and he's saving his mother, who ends up dying because I guess she's weak at this point.
His mom and Padme, a lot of people die around Anakin for just being tired. Anybody Anakin comes in contact with dies. I'm surprised Ahsoka survived.
He's this kid who's just trying to figure himself out, and he's stuck with these feelings. And being the chosen one, it's just like this huge burden, I guess. And if you want to dig deeper, it's just like, of course he's going to jump into the dark side. And where else is he going to jump at this point? Like, he's going to jump into his heart, and his heart is with Padme. And of course that means he goes to the dark side, because passion, rage, sadness, anxiety, all that, like, it just goes into there. Like, he was doomed from the start. And this is where you see all of the action happen in a way. I mean, of course, Revenge of the Sith actually deals with the action, but like we said before, the world building of not just the Star Wars galaxy, but also the world building inside Anakin of the struggle of just the loss of his mother, the struggle with his master, the love that he has for someone, even though that he's a Jedi. So it's him diverging from that path.
And then you see him just not being able to control his own internal anger that he harbors the whole time, like him slaughtering a whole little village and the women and the children
and the dogs. He doesn't even mention the dogs.
They were right there too. You see so much conflict that comes down. That's why it's like, it's so much about it made me feel like maybe you can skip episode 1. I wouldn't want to because I just like I like the mall fight and all that. But it's like, if we're supposed to be following Anakin's story, I don't know if there's anything of substance in episode 1 that doesn't get imprinted on in episode 2 and episode 3.
It's just the loss of Qui-Gon, and that's it. The only moral compass of like what Anakin could have been, which was a little bit more of a free thinker that Qui-Gon and Count Dooku were, even though that Count Dooku succumbed to the dark side. Yeah. Like, he would have been more of a free thinker, and it would have been more of, I guess, what theory calls it, like a gray force user or a gray whatever. Like, he would have been a little bit more balanced, but instead you lose Qui-Gon, and that's what set him on this path to the dark side, because he doesn't know anywhere else. There's only light and dark.
Did you notice that you hear Qui-Gon's voice in Yoda's premonitions when he senses the disturbance after Anakin starts going ballistic?
He says no, right?
He's like, Anakin! Anakin! Oh, and you see Yoda's sitting there and he's in his little thinking pose going like this, and you hear him
like, what's going on?
Yeah. That is, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. That it's not a premonition. That's obviously Yoda sensed Anakin snapping when that happened, which means that means Qui-Gon was there, maybe as a spirit, like a force ghost, of trying to reach out to him, but he couldn't. Maybe Qui-Gon hasn't, in the 10 years since, he hasn't mastered the ability to communicate through the Force, but maybe Yoda, being wise to the Force, he's able to sense that. But it was just weird. I noticed, I was like, hey, Liam Neeson. Speaking of Obi-Wan and pointing out continuity again, they did it again in this film about reshoots. You could see when he has a fake beard this time.
I didn't notice. I'm glad that you picked it out.
So botchy. One of the scenes, I'm like, what the heck is this? It's just so botched. And I looked at it and I was like, this is silly. This is silly. I hate that I noticed this. And I did not mean to make this a game, to make this a sport. But once again, you could tell what scenes were reshoots after principal photography was done by just looking at the beard of Obi-Wan. So look, Mike, as a fellow beard grower, you know, when like mustaching over here, like it grows down, it does morph itself, and we have structure, we have texture that is facial hair. You could tell, even though I'm a little ungroomy on some spots, and you got a little underneath that's going on right there. But you know, our beards grow down and they take form as they grow out. Obi-Wan's fake beard, after he already shaved, is just like, imagine shaving coarse hair on a bantha.
Yes.
And taking that coarse hair and just putting it. That's what that looked like. It's so
very
unkept.
Unruly hair. I got you.
Yeah.
It's like the Jedi don't even care about all the hair on their face. As we're still talking about this, what was your favorite scene in this whole movie, if you were to pick a scene out? Or I guess what stands out in this movie to you, not negatively but positively?
Okay. I mentioned how pretty I like Naboo, and that's just something recently looking at it again. I was like, oh, that's a place I would want to visit. It looks calm. It looks peaceful. It looks light side. It looks at no point does it look bad. Even in the night scenes, it just looks peaceful, and that looks like a very calming place I would like to visit. I would assume that's Athens, or they're trying to replicate something in Rome or something. I don't know. I there's something cool about that. I'm like
Heavenly.
but yeah. There's it's. I get what they're trying to do with Padme, and it fits. It just the character relationship, the dynamic of it, and the character as itself is not the problem of Padme or Anakin. It's how it was just kind of forcing it within that 90 minutes or whatever. But up until watching it again, I would have said probably my favorite scene was when my favorite everything was when Obi-Wan was fighting Jango Fett in the rain and all that was going down. I really liked that as a kid watching that. That was so cool just to see.
It was very different too. It's a Jedi in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah. Going up against the Mandalorian, and now even knowing what the Mandalorians are to be, like it's even cooler. But just seeing the jetpack, it felt very like raw. It did not feel like it was this elegant dance that you saw with Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. It felt very like visceral almost. I liked that for the longest time, but now, fresh eyes, I can really appreciate the Colosseum scene for what it was. Like the Colosseum scene onward of just all hell breaks loose and the floodgates open. And you just see the Jedis being Jedis. You see the droids being whatever they got to be. And then you see Yoda come down with the clone troopers all the way up until leading into the fight with Dooku. I really like that scene of it. And maybe because that's when the plot starts to move forward.
Yeah. I got
Throughout the whole movie, it's like, what are we doing? Hey, can you tell me where this starts from? Oh, I know where that's from. Like, the whole thing is like,
the clones come in. It's literally the story, the attack of the clones.
Now we're moving the plot forward. Didn't know it was at the end. Didn't know it was at the end of the third act. But alas, here we are.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. You touched on my favorite scene, which is the Colosseum. Not... I guess all the Jedi all together before they all get destroyed is pretty cool. But literally the three creatures, I guess the world building, but in that Colosseum specifically, the Acklay coming out of the tunnel is something I remember seeing as a kid. I'm like, this is from a nightmare. And then seeing it as an adult, I'm like, this is exciting. This is the Acklay from... If you're in Star Wars lore, or if you know Star Wars lore, it's from Felucia, which is where I totally forgot her name just now. The Twi'leks are from, I guess. But or at least anyways, the Acklay are from that world as well. And you see this thing, and of course, in my mind, before I see the Acklay, I think like literally like basically like those razor blades from like a box cutter opener. That's why I imagine as their feet. But then you see in the movie, it's more like pincers or whatever, like a some amalgamation of like a praying mantis gone wrong or something like that.
Yeah.
I see it and I get excited because I'm like, this creature's cool. Like my childhood is back. That's my favorite scene. Just like you have all three characters going against these three different creatures. And of course it's very contrived, very convenient. The creatures don't like deviate or whatever. It's like, okay, the Acklay goes for Obi-Wan, the bowl thing goes for Anakin, and the crazy mutant cat bobcat thing goes for Padme and somehow doesn't kill her. She doesn't die from the blood that should be pouring out of her back after she gets clawed or whatever. That scene, the Colosseum scene, is my favorite scene in this movie. There's a lot of cool scenes in this. The Colosseum, even before the clones get in there, is cool. Leading up to it, I thought, oh, there's 3 columns, there's 3 people. How convenient. No, there's 4. I'm like, okay, so maybe I was a little bit wrong. It's actually a little bit more general in a way. And then you have Geonosians flying around and all that. I'm like, this is a chaotic, like you said, it's a Roman scene. Like, there's no rules. You got people flying around or whatever. Like, there's no organization. All it is the action of the fight. The gladiator versus whatever
Yeah.
it's fighting, whether it's an animal or another gladiator or anything else, the opponent.
Yeah. And it's the one time I think Obi-Wan's actually funny where he's just like, good job.
Yeah,
Sitting
I
right
think
there.
she can handle herself.
Yeah. He's like, well, we decided we'd come and save you. Good job.
You saved me, right? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, the Colosseum is in the actual like plot part, it moves the story forward. It's just, it feels very like that. This is the first time where like, I think with the Colosseum, and I had that feeling again watching it now, that the Colosseum for me is like, this is the first time that I feel like there's real stakes on the table. And I don't mean food stakes. Like there's something to lose. There's something to win or lose here. Not the dead cat. I mean, like, oh, what are you wagering? Everything's right here. Like it actually feels like there's something to win or lose at that point. And
New gun raise right there. He's waiting for the senator to die.
More like worked up in the Colosseum than I did when the droids were going to fight in episode 1, when they're getting all lined up and they're gonna go fight Jar Jar and all these like
all the
Gungans.
Gungans.
My planet. Yeah, it just, to me, that was like, okay, it felt like
rolls.
it was cool. It felt visually like big, but the stakes was like, well, how can I care about this when we just saw the first dual red lightsaber come into play, and I am so much more focused on what's going on with the Jedi than what you guys are doing. You guys are filler. I did not care about that. Or Anakin flying the droid ship, or autopilot to the we already beat that one. So like I did not care about this one. It's like, no, the focus is on the Colosseum. I'm invested in the Colosseum. The Jedi are here. Dooku at that moment was there. Everything leading up to I remember at one point, and I forgot that as a kid. That because I just was reliving like, oh yeah, I did think that. I thought at one point even Darth Sidious was at the Colosseum for whatever reason.
That'd be cool.
I thought he would have been there too. It wouldn't make the story sense, but at no point did the story really need to make sense for, that's not what Star Wars is. It doesn't make sense. But
no,
I just felt like there was everything important was happening at the Colosseum. You got Yoda, Mace, you got Obi-Wan, Anakin, you got everybody.
You have the Death Star plans there.
Yeah.
Everything's there. Everything's at stake at this moment, and it's terrible because, like we said before, there's so much. Literally, the galaxy is at the pinpoint, the tipping point right here, and you don't really care at the end of the day. Like, it's the worst gross. Like, financially, it's not a good Star Wars movie. Popularity, it's not the best Star Wars movie either. But literally everything is at the hinge at this moment. You've got the super battle droids pushing away the regular battle droids to get a clear shot at the Jedi. They're doing their best. You got the droid cause rolling in, trying their best. You got the Geonosians going everywhere. You got Jango Fett jumping in to try to sway the sides. You got Yoda coming in with the Clone Wars. Literally everything is on the hinge point. And you don't really care technically at the end of the day. You have Padme falling into the sand. You got Anakin losing an arm. We haven't even touched on that. You got dual lightsabers and all that. Like you got things blowing up that are like the size of like cities, the size of Bay Area, like blowing up. And you don't really care at the end of the day. But everything is literally at the tipping point at this moment in the Colosseum. And it's amazing. Yeah. It's astounding.
I would say the only other cool moment in the film that I really like, top 3 still, is when Obi-Wan and Jango are in space and Jango drops the bomb and just...
Oh my goodness.
That is always so cool. And I felt that was the first time I ever felt something like that in theater. I remember sitting down, I was like, and the way they had the surround sound, I was like, whoa, it just moved through the audience. It was so cool.
That was the thing that I was describing to my wife when we were watching, and she's like, didn't we see that in the Book of Boba? I'm like, yeah, this is the scene that made Slave 1 cool. This is what made that bomb cool. And that's why when you see in Book of Boba Fett, why it's a big scene with the Sarlacc getting seismic bombed. Like,
that's right.
This is the return of the prequels in the best way possible. this is paying homage
Right.
to all those people back in 2002 who have been waiting for this moment to happen again, and here it is.
Because it makes the Slave One cool. It made that ship sick. It was just, it could do, what couldn't it do? At the point where it could just drop a bomb and use it as a decoy to deflect, and it just... I love that. Was so cool. It's just that's top 3 scenes in Attack of the Clones. Still, I don't know what order I would put it in. I think the Coliseum will be always number 1, but that one's either number 2 or number 3 for me. I really like that scene a lot.
Attack of the Clones has there's like you said, amazing moments in this movie. And it's sad that it's not the best Star Wars movie overall. Like, if you were to like zero sum all of them, like you add up all the point. If we were to add points to all these movies, like point wise, like Attack of the Clones has a whole bunch of fantastic moments, but it doesn't add up to like what Phantom Menace had to live up to and kind of delivered in a way, and then what Revenge of the Sith somehow, like the underdog of the Star Wars movie, ended up doing. Like, it delivered on what seemed impossible with a kind of flop, a big flop, and then a
redemption.
Redemption. But like all the amazing, like, we've been talking about this for a while now. Like, there's a lot of great material in Attack of the Clones, but somehow it just doesn't stand up story-wise. It's got its cool moments.
It looks like if they filmed a blueprint. It didn't look like they had the complete story fleshed out yet. If they would have fixed the story, then it would have fixed everything else, because all the things we're highlighting that we like about it have to do with the CGI, has to do with the technology at the time that they were able to deliver, and just make you go like, whoa, that was cool. Like, I don't have anything wrong with Yoda, CGI Yoda jumping around, just slaying, going in on Count Dooku. Like, that's so cool to see, and then see him do it again, in episode 3. Like, all that stuff is cool. So the moments that are really awesome because the only thing that was awesome in Phantom Menace was everything that took place in the Duel of Fates song. So Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan versus Maul is the only cool thing that makes Phantom Menace even worth even bringing up going forward. In episode 2, though, there's so many like gems just sprinkled all over, but the plot failed, and it is what it is. I was just like, all right, you know what, fine. But the gems for what they didn't have the same grand impact as what Duel of Fates would have had, but it had a bunch of good. It's like, do you want a small prime rib or filet mignon, or do you want a bunch of like good, like a 3-4 course meal, and all of it's like really, really, really good? Like, there's just more stuff happening in episode 2 that's like, hey, that's cool. The space flight and seeing Jango, go a little ballistic out there and get his chance to fight back. That's cool. That's really cool. The Coliseum speaks for itself. Watching this, the clone troopers board as they form up as they're playing the Imperial March.
We see all the different colored clone troopers in here, and you're like, whoa, that one's yellow. He must be a commander. And then you see the red ones. You're like, oh, they must be like brigadiers or something else. Like, you see the ranks, and the lore goes everywhere. Of course, then they explore it with the kind of like the OVA type of thing with the older Clone Wars series, the 2-parter or whatever, and then explore it more into the whole entire series, headed by so many fantastic names in there. Which made Ahsoka Tano and everything else. Like, this is the movie that spearheaded it. And
without Attack of the Clones, like, I don't think you wouldn't have a phenomenal animated series that came out of it. I don't think there would have been any good. Without Attack of the Clones being what it was, we would not have good series of Star Wars, starting with Clone Wars. Then you have Rebels. And then now you move into
the potential's there.
Yeah, but the difference is, specifically with Clone Wars, is they fleshed out the plot. which is why it's a great show, because they took the time to do the proper character development, and that's maybe not totally fair because they have hours to do instead of just 90 minutes.
It's a TV show versus a movie. Yeah.
Yes, but still, the plot is like, if I'm reading a book, at the end of the day, like, it's the story. Like, the story has to matter, and you just kind of forced Anakin and Padme too hard for me to really care.
Every single scene.
And
you got
every
the flying
scene,
pear and everything.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to do. I just don't care because you don't make me care. I cared when Qui-Gon died. You made me care throughout the whole film what he was trying to do. And you could see he's a little bit of a rebel. You could see that maybe he knew that Padme was the queen, and that's why he was teasing her, taunting her a little bit along. Like, I'm invested in Qui-Gon by the time he dies. Like, I care. And then, yeah, the
only time I cared about Padme and Anakin was when they were in the Coliseum fighting alongside, having some of their quips together. With the tipped over cart, and she's shooting out of it, and he's deflecting the blaster bolts for her. It's kind of like it's a dichotomy or a mirror of Han and Leia on Endor, kind of like that. But with their own spin on it and the romantics that go on with there and what you know. But like you said, it's very forced, and that's the bummer of it. You don't really get to fall in love as Anakin with Padme or as Padme with Anakin. There's no romance necessarily. It's just struggle into the relationship. Like, how can we make this work? Instead of
you don't make me have to care about this because that's lazy writing. I don't know. But
yeah,
I feel like I beat that subject on enough.
I guess I'll leave it with there was no honeymoon phase necessarily.
Yeah.
It was basically just the couple was bickering, deal with it.
They're bickering, but yet somehow they kiss, and now they got feelings.
And now they're together, and then you just accept it, and you're like, okay, well, whatever. I guess we're here.
You get married. Who else gets married after being together for like a couple days? Because I feel like that's the scope of or a week. Okay, I'll be generous. I'll give you a week,
and
then immediately turn around, give it one more week. By the time everything happens and Anakin gets his robotic hand or arm, so 2 weeks. Who gets married after 2 weeks? Come on, I can't care.
I don't know. I guess maybe what I'll touch on is the fact that we strayed away from Jar Jar Binks humor and went more towards, I guess, the original trilogy of bantering between R2-D2 and 3PO, which is what people love, is 3PO being like the voice of reason and R2-D2 being like, now the plot needs me, so I'm gone, bud.
I don't know. 3PO was die Jedi scum. Oh my. You mentioned like they moved away from the Jar Jar humor and stuff like that. The actor Jar Jar is another cameo in that bar.
Everyone's in the bar.
Yeah, they put we need to make this bar fill, and they put Jar Jar, the actor Jar Jar, in there, but as
who isn't in the bar at this point? Is Luke in the? Is
Mark Hamill in the bar? Mark Hamill is not, unfortunately. I hear they de-age him though for the child role for Kenobi.
I mean, I've seen
I'm
in
joking.
the trailer for okay, well, not de-aging him.
Just imagine as a kid, yeah, like in the Kenobi trailer, you see a young Luke. It's like, that's Mark Hamill de-aged.
Commenting on, I guess, maybe this Kenobi section of it from the trailer that we've seen, I do like the fact that they're including a young Luke Skywalker. It's not just Kenobi like looking off into the distance and seeing the moisture farm and all that, and then he has his own adventure. Right. We actually see him spying on Luke Skywalker, and Luke Skywalker being the kid that he is, like, I want to be a pilot. Like, not knowing his father, but at least being like, I want to have an adventure in the galaxy. You're like, that's Luke Skywalker. I appreciate them making that chance, at least in the trailer. We haven't seen the series. It's not out yet as of the time that we're recording this. But
And as of the time recording this, they updated that there will be 2 episodes come drop. So, hey.
wow, I can't wait to watch 2 episodes.
I'm doing nothing else that Friday. I'm just gonna sit down. I'm not doing podcast that day. I'm just gonna sit down and watch Obi-Wan.
I'll probably wake up early before the podcast and watch. But no, I can't.
Nah, you kidding? I'm gonna stay up. I'm not gonna go to bed until I watch it at midnight when it turns
probably.
over.
I'll probably somehow convince.
Then I'll go to bed.
I'll convince my wife we're watching Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is my life. I grew up like I described in Phantom Menace. I picked up the DVD of Phantom Menace and my mom said to me, watch this. And I thought in my mind, this is my Star Wars. And now we've come basically 20 years in the future and we're getting Kenobi again for the first time, quote unquote. But now it's like the return to form Kenobi.
We're getting our Star Wars continuation. We're not moving towards Kylo Ren, or we're going back to
the prequels are back, baby.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not mad.
I guess the thing that I was going to mention, I guess before that I forgot about, again, the world building is the characters like the Jedi. As a kid, you would probably not remember this Jedi's name, Randy. The dude who has the very tall head that looks like he's got like 2 brains in there or whatever, and has like the little gray ponytail. Ki-Adi-Mundi, who's played by Silas Carlson or Carson or whatever. Sorry, Silas, if you're listening to this, you're probably never going to listen to this. But I respect you. I love the character that you play and the energy that you put into this character. Even though that your quote at the very beginning of this movie is he's a political idealist, not a murderer, which is probably one of the worst lines I've ever heard ever in my life.
He goes, he was once a Jedi.
He was a political idealist, not a murderer. Would you just shut up? Like,
no one asked you. Would you?
No one asked you, man. But like
he's over there just running his mouth and just like, shut up, man. Shut up.
He has a lot of lines in this. That and also Revenge of the Sith. Ki-Adi-Mundi has a whole bunch of lines, but he's a side character. You don't really hear his name too much at all. Him, Kit Fisto, Ayla Secura, that's her name, the Twi'lek. Ayla Secura, Shakti, all of them, Plo Koon, all these side character Jedi that you briefly see in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, who are really cool. You never really get the payoff. I guess you get some of the payoff in the classic Clone Wars animation series, and then the newer, more refined Dave Filoni series. You get to see more Plo Koon and all that. I like that they inject all these different Jedi into here. You don't get too much time with them. You get very small snippets like Ki-Adi-Mundi being like, he's a political ideal. Okay, smart man. Or you get Kit Fisto like pushing C-3PO instead of slicing them in half or like slicing his head in half. He's just like, I'll just push you over and then smile.
Right.
Like, what was this even of? Like, what am I watching?
That was very campy.
Very campy. Very much 2002, which I guess Spider-Man, the original movie made by Sam Raimi, came out the same year as this movie, along with Lord of the Rings.
I remember,
did worse than both of them.
I guess 2002 was a very busy year for me at the theaters. There are some other like little indie things.
Treasure Planet. You had Time Machine. You had Scooby-Doo the movie.
Oh my God! Whoa!
I know.
I remember Treasure Plaza too.
Treasure Planet. You had Star Trek, but I wasn't really.
Are you talking with the Scooby-Doo movie with Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Yes, the original Scooby-Doo movie, live action.
Oh man!
You had 8 Mile with Eminem as well.
That's right.
Ice Age. Big Fat Liar with Agent Cody Banks, or is it Agent Cody Banks? Yeah, it's Tarzan and Jane come out. Like Mike, Goldmember. My goodness. All these I mean, I was too young at this point. I
think I saw all those films in theater.
Yeah, I was, I think 6 or 7 at the time.
Isn't that weird
I
how that
watch
works, Mike? Using that math, at the time, I was double your age. Now it's like you're closer to my age than it, but at that time, I was double your age.
Well, that's what age is. I mean, for those who are listening who are young, you think that your older brother is like leagues above you, and then you roll to like our age, and it's like me and Randy who are like at least 5-7 years apart from each other. Talking about Star Wars movies that like was our childhood, like the gap closes in a way.
As time moves forward, the gap gets even closer, which is why people don't have. It feels like time is moving quicker when you get older, as well as when you think about half of your life ago. You're really going to go back to your like early 20s, teenage, like that just will stick a lot longer, because that's just mathematically how, if each year it's getting shorter and shorter like that. Because like in 2002, I was half your age. I was double. You were half my age. I was double your age, and now like, whoo, we're so far apart. I lived your life twice, Mike, and now it's like, hey, look at us. We grew through this Star Wars universe thing, and
together we're talking about Cybertrucks now.
Yeah, and I just think about how crazy 2002 was. So even I'll take 2002 for what it was, even with all its campiness.
With Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. My goodness, if you want to hear our thought, or I guess me and Drew's thoughts on it back in whatever episode we talked about, I'll link it in the description or whatever. It's there.
You go.
You can listen to our critique of it. You'll hear how I hated the movie probably. It's a fantastic classic movie. Same as this. It's a fantastic classic movie. There's so many great moments in it, but it just doesn't stand the test of time. It's something that was kind of lost in the sands of time, so to speak, in Geonosis or in Tatooine. It died with the Sand People in a way. We look back on it and we're like, there's always so many fond memories of it, but it's not like, it's not the best. It's not technically the worst. There's probably been worse. We could probably review a worse Star Wars movie that like aimed really high and just went really low. Solo's kind of in there. For as much as I enjoyed it, it's probably on the same level as Attack of the Clones with me. We'll probably review it eventually at some point.
And I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Oh, my
you are
goodness.
not Harrison.
You are nowhere close.
Who are you?
But you tried. You get a silver star sticker on your nice little vest.
You get a participation trophy.
There you go. I guess any final thoughts, Randy, on Attack of the Clones as we close out this?
No, I think this is it. I appreciate the Attack of the Clones for what it is, because it is a blueprint of world building, and it did back then, as it does now, again this time, only get me excited for episode 3 of what's to come.
It also started Commander Cody and Commander Rex without our knowledge.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Or Captain Rex, or however you want to call him.
I think they retconned that they retconned that, so he's captain. No, commander.
I think he's commander. He got commandered in the end of Clone Wars, the last season. He got
but then he went back to captain.
Either or.
I remember them retconning it. He became anyway, it doesn't matter. They fixed it. Yes, but yes.
Either or. This movie started a whole bunch, and it tried its best, but still probably gets like a D. Maybe a D+ if you want to be nice.
I give it a 3.5. I'm meet in the middle from 3 and 4. I give it a 3.5.
3.5, yeah.
Out of 8.
I'll go right there with you, Randy. A 3.5 out of 8. It's got some sparks in it. It's got it's got some of the memes, not as many as like what Spider-Man in 2002 had. It's got those sparks. It just doesn't stand up with Phantom Menace, with the glory it was with Duel Fates, or Revenge of the Sith that we'll review, which is the epic that it is with Grievous and Dooku.
I'm going to block out so many hours we'll probably cover. I don't know what will make the final cut, but I plan on talking a lot about episode 3.
I'm sure we'll probably talk 3 hours of it, and I'll cut it down to like an hour and a half somehow, and I'll still.
It's gonna be the best hour and a half.
It's gonna be I don't want to hype it up too much at this point, but Revenge of the Sith is the groove, and I can't wait to dance with the groove. Mm-hmm. Anyways, thanks for joining us. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us. This is a fantastic time for however long I edited this down to. I appreciate y'all for listening. Randy, I appreciate you joining me
Thank you for inviting me.
Halfway through this wonderful escapade as we build our way to Kenobi. And we'll catch you next time. Have a good morning / evening / night. I forget what we said last time. Anyways, take care.
Have a good time zone.
There we go. Have a good time zone. Bye.
Bye.